Hi, I'm Karen Downing Ripley, and I invite you to join me on a recent, unexpected side trip to Brittany, France, during the 80th anniversary of the city of Plélo's remarkable liberation celebration, and learn why Bretons and Americans remember and honor our shared DNA of World War II. A last-minute decision to deliver my father's World War II documents to the city of Plélo, France, opened me up to an amazing experience that has truly changed my life. I ask that you join me so that you too can know and appreciate how we Americans are respected and revered because our ancestors fought to liberate the town of Plélo in August 1944. In the last episode, we learned how Patton's 3rd Army, 15th Cavalry, Reconnaissance Troop B voluntarily liberated Plélo in Brittany, France. Lieutenant Hamsley's decision was outside of his orders to proceed to Brest. His voluntary actions and those of his men saved the town of Plélo from certain destruction by the German and Russian occupiers. On August 7, 1944, the 15th Cavalry Reconnaissance Group followed Lieutenant Robert Hamsley, who led 5 Sherman tanks and 20 men near Plélo, France. Hamsley had orders to proceed to Brest, Brittany. But Lieutenant Hamsley was approached by a group of resistance fighters. They asked Hamsley to go against orders and join them in saving the village of Plélo that was just a few kilometers down the road. Hamsley was initially hesitant, not wanting to go against orders, but upon seeing the desperation of the Free French, he decided to help them. He was quoted as saying, "I'll take care of it, then I'll go on to Brest." And that he did.
The Germans were pulling out. They were going to dynamite the entire town and shoot most of the populace. And so there was a small French resistance element that was driving around. The Free French and the resistance would actually serve almost essentially as cavalry for the Americans. They would move out in front. They talk to our cavalry. They provide us information, then move back, in civilian vehicles, looking like civilians. They would use sort of the backdoor intelligence networks as people talked to them about what they'd seen and who had moved where and where these troops were. And so a small Free French resistance element got in touch with Colonel Hamsley's platoon and said, we need you to abandon your mission because something bad is really going to happen in Plélo. And Colonel Hamsley was faced with the decision of, I've been told to go seize this beach, which could technically be strategically important. We got to get there first, or I can do what the resistance is saying and go save this town. One of the good things about Americans very often is they don't feel the need to usually follow orders sometimes. And Colonel Hamsley decided he was going to go save the town versus go seizing a beach. The Germans came up with this idea of Auftragstaktik, which is mission type orders. And so you're supposed to give people these broad general orders that say, go do this. And this is the purpose for it. And you figure out how to get it done because I got bigger things to do. That kind of ruled the day in cavalry. So he'd been told to seize that beach, but if there's something more important, American officers would generally have some leeway to do something else, as long as there wasn't another element depending on them. So the good thing for Colonel Hamsley was the fact that he didn't, or Lieutenant Hamsley at the time, the beach wasn't really necessary, and it wasn't under threat, and the Germans weren't there, and so it would have been sort of a nothing mission. So in this case, he made the right choice, which spoke volumes for him.
Just as it looked like all the citizens of Plélo would be annihilated by the Germans, something amazing happened. How incredible it must have been to hear the 5 American Sherman tanks rumbling down the road, echoing off the houses, as Lieutenant Hamsley and his 20 men of the 15th Cavalry Reconnaissance Group charged into town to knock out the artillery and vanquish the Germans and Russians. How understandable that the townspeople wanted to show their appreciation for Lieutenant Hamsley and his men. As soon as the smoke had cleared, Hamsley and his men rolled out of Plélo and headed for Brest as they had been assigned. The townspeople were overjoyed to have been saved from certain annihilation and asked Hamsley and his men to stay and celebrate. But Hamsley had to catch up with his orders and move on to Brest. With little ado, the 15th Cavalry Reconnaissance Group had done their duty and were up and gone as fast as they came. Throughout the following years, many stories were told about the Americans who had saved the town of Plélo. There were feelings of emptiness and regret that the Plélotins had not had time to properly thank the Americans who had saved them. It became a frequent topic of conversation, especially around Liberation Day each year. It was unfinished business that a future mayor Plélo, who had been a young boy during the liberation, remembered and vowed to rectify. The citizens of Plélo had survived time and time again throughout the war. Through their bravery and stoicism, they had survived. They had supported the resistance, and the men and women of Plélo had played a key role in helping the Allies push the Germans back. As you will see in the next episode, our shared World War II DNA with the French and our allies is strong, and we Americans, like they, must never forget the sacrifice that was made to bring freedom and democracy back to Europe. It is not only out of respect that we must remember, it's our sacred duty. Be sure to join me for the next episode of You Were There, Karen Beth, and hear more stories about Plélo's liberation and the men of the 15th Cavalry Reconnaissance Group who liberated Plélo on August 7, 1944.